Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this press conference. We're here to announce that John Frisch has accepted the position of general manager for the Los Angeles Angels for just today. He's going to tell us what he's going to do this entire offseason. You have tuned in for the right show, friends. You're locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen today. Every show is free and available on all platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And while you're listening, you can give us a rate and a review. We would appreciate it. It helps others to find the pod. And for those watching on YouTube, you can like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified every time a new episode drops.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother, GM Johnny.
That's right. I like the sound of that. Yeah,
you ready for
GM
this?
Johnny. Come on.
What kind of contract would you demand as a general manager, John? I mean, you have no experience. You're a rookie at this. Well, I take that back. You've put some really good teams together on the show, and you've put some really good tems together in fantasy baseball. So you've got some experience here, and you play a great right field in softball.
I play the show. I have a great team going right now. A great season. I'm doing well. I think I'm ready for this.
Is this like a $5 million a year contract, or is this a $5 million daily contract with the Angels?
Daily. Yeah, just because it's one day. It's just I'm only here for a day. So listen, before we jump into the GM conversation, Mike, I just have to address the comment. Well, actually, why don't you take this? Because I'm still flustered about it.
All right. So let's do good tweet, bad tweet. How about that? So I'm going to do the good tweet because I'm the pastor. And so I really appreciated Awesome Brian on Twitter. He responded to a tweet that you put out under the Super Halo Brothers handle. And he shared his offseason priorities and had some really great, ideas of what to sign Shohei for. And then somebody came at him for his contract that he would offer Shohei, a 6-year, $375 million deal. Somebody was like, no way, it's ridiculous. That's terrible. And his answer back to that tweet was very respectful and was very clear. And then that person doubled down. And then I love that Awesome Brian went awesome on that person. He said, you must be fun at parties. So this is my good tweet. High five to Awesome Brian. Thanks for being a listener. Thanks for being a follower of the Super Halo Bros and Locked On Angels. So that's the good tweet. John, talk about the bad tweet.
Oh, just the comments that sometimes we get are just like, well, clearly the Angels need pitching. And I'm like, look, I know that was the narrative for the last 10 years, and it was old when people would say, we need pitching, when everybody knew that we needed pitching. There was no need to rephrase it and restate it and reclaim it over and over and over again. Now that we have some pitching, I understand we probably need another starter, another bullpen piece or 2 or 3, but pitching is not the problem anymore.
Right.
So that's what inspired my tweet, and that's what inspired Awesome Brian on Twitter to respond to that. So I appreciated that. Thank you. I'm not the only sane one around here. Thanks to Awesome Brian for understanding and having and contributing to the conversation. That's the thing about the pitching stuff, is it doesn't contribute anything to the conversation. Who do you want to get? Tell me where you would put them in the rotation. Tell me who you want for the bullpen. Not just, we need pitching.
We need pitching. Listen, if we had all the pitching in the world then this last season, we still would have finished at probably 500 because we could not hit the ball at all outside of the top 3 in our lineup. So that's why I'm excited to hear what you would do, General Manager Jonathan, this offseason. Are you putting on a tie?
Yes. Let me make this official. Anyone listening will hear me putting on this tie. And YouTube, there you go.
You're really up in the game here, man. This is great.
I better see dressed up for tomorrow, Mike. You're on deck for GM.
Tie that John has worn since his wedding.
It's probably true, actually.
It probably is true.
All right. So as we get into this, Mike, I just want to have a few notes here just to kind of prep the conversation. And here's how this is going to go down. The Angels' expected payroll, according to Spot Track, with the arbitration numbers, with the expected arbitration, is going to be $156,319,000. $1,833. So about 156.5. Okay.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
luxury tax threshold is $233 million, up from 2022.
Yeah.
And it is up $3 million this year. So $233 million. Now, previously, the Angels have topped out at $188 million, which was 2022. The
Yep.
goal here is to keep it around $200 million because that's where I expect the Angels would top out. I don't think that they would go above that. So that gives us about $43,680,167 to spend.
All right.
And it's not a lot of wiggle room. So
no,
I'm going over, just so you know. Just going to put that out there right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to base my
Artie's gonna fire
signing.
you.
Yes, immediately. I'm immediately fired.
Immediately. All right, go ahead.
I'm going to base my signings on the average annual value and the comparable market value from Spot Track. And to start out today's conversation as GM Johnny, I'm going to solve the depth issue. And I'm just going to give you one person in this segment, and then I will continue in the next few segments. But this immediately solves our depth issue. And you probably know who I'm going to say because we've talked about him a whole lot on Locked On Angels. In fact, somebody sent us a message on Twitter that said, hey, did you see this article about Brandon Drury driving and expecting to be at spring training with the Angels? And then he got a phone call from the Reds. And then he ended up at spring training with them. So here's my play for Brandon Drury. In 2022, he had a $900K salary. The market value, according to Spot Track, is going to be $6.5 million.
Okay.
So, Mike, I am signing Brandon Drury to a $7 million a year contract. I'm not going to get into multiple years. I'm just going to tell you the average annual value of what I would give him. He's somebody I would love to see for a couple of years, but for the sake of this, to keep it simple, $7 million for Brandon Drury. Now, here's why it solves the depth issue. He can play third, first, second, shortstop, the outfield. Michael, he bats .299 against lefties. He did that this season. And he can also play first base if you want to platoon him with Jared Walsh. And in that situation where he's not playing short or second base, I think that you can put Rengifo at second if Jared Walsh is out of the lineup because you want Drury to face a lefty and have him at first base. When he's not facing a lefty and when Jared Walsh doesn't have to face a lefty, put Brandon Drury at second. Keep David Fletcher at short because we have to keep in mind the shift is gone this season. And we're going to need a lot more defense behind our pitching. And so I think David Fletcher, out of the options that we have, makes for the best shortstop. However, Brandon Drury could also play there, and you could have Rengifo at second. You could have Brandon Drury step in at third base when Anthony Rendon eventually takes a few weeks off because he's hurt again. Knock on wood. So I'm solving the depth problem, and with an infield that consists of Jared Walsh, Anthony Rendon, David Fletcher, Luis Rengifo, Brandon Drury, and possibly even Livan Soto off the bench. It depends on how many you want to carry in terms of the infield. That's the thing about Drury. He can play the outfield as well. And we know Jared Walsh can do a little bit of that too. So I'm going to get creative with the infield. Brandon Drury, $7 million a year, and it starts in 2023. Solve that depth issue, baby, because we need as many strong infielders as we can get. And I like his advantage against the lefties, and I like that he could potentially platoon with Jared Walsh. What do you think about this signing?
Okay, two questions. First question, do you have an expectation for how many games Brandon will play as he can fill all of these different roles? Third, second, short, first, maybe in the outfield. Do you see him playing on your team 130 games because he's going to be just constantly filling in for everybody? Or is he going to strictly be a backup for those that are starters in the infield and only come in every once in a while?
He's my second base starter. And if you want to move him over to first to fill in for Jared Walsh, you can do that and have Giffey play second. Short can be Fletcher. If you need Drury at shortstop, maybe, I'm not sure if he is the better one, but either way, I feel pretty comfortable with David Fletcher at shortstop. So if Drury's playing second, I like that too. But Drury's playing every day for me. I expect him to play about 150 games in the season, and he's going to move all around the infield. He's going to be our Meiser Esturez. He's going to be
Ooh.
our Sean Figgins,
Okay.
our Alberto Callaspo, right? He's going to be that guy, the
Got it.
everyman who can play all over the field. That's going to be our answer to initially address the depth issue before we get into what else I have in store coming up.
Okay, and then so second question.
Yes.
Are you concerned at all about Brandon Drury only having kind of a career year this last season, and then when he got traded to the Padres, he seemed to be on a downward trajectory. He was actually struggling a bit with the Padres after being traded from the Reds.
I'm not concerned about that because we need this guy who can make contact. We need this guy who can play all over the field. I think we have to prioritize who's going to step in when somebody else falls. And he's not Matt Duffy. He's certainly not Jose Rojas, right? It's a step above that. Yeah, no kidding. And I mean, if you look at his performance, I know that it wasn't as great as it was in Cincinnati, but I mean, the Angels were already interested in him, and he ended up in Cincinnati. So by all accounts, I think that he would be a great fit. I'm not concerned about the bat because I have solutions for that later on.
All right, well, coming up on Locked On Angels, does John have enough money to sign a big name free agent? We're going to find out, and if it actually will happen under John's watch on Locked On Angels. But first, Locked On Angels is brought to you by SimpliSafe. In the last decade, over 4 million people have said yes to a SimpliSafe home security system to protect their home, because at SimpliSafe, your safety is what matters. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. And here's why you'll love SimpliSafe. It's super customizable. You don't have to purchase things that you don't need in order to get what you want. The system integrates with your home, and it's easy to self-install. And you don't have to have a tech come out and schedule something. And you won't have this bulky unit that damages or messes up your home's design. This system will bring you the security that you want and the peace of mind that you need while you're sleeping or while you're away during the day. SimpliSafe is easy and simple to use, whether you're controlling your system from the phone with the really cool app that they have, accessing and watching the crystal clear HD live stream of your security cameras, or talking with SimpliSafe agents who are monitoring your system and call you the moment a threat is detected to get you the help that you need. Customize the perfect system for your home in just a few minutes. Go to this website right now, simplisafe.com/LockedOnMLB, and you can save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan, and you get your first month free. So visit simplisafe.com/LockedOnMLB to learn more. And remember, there's no safe like SimpliSafe.
We want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. For your second listen today, you need to check out Locked On Sports today. In just 22 minutes, you can get all the information you need from the games that matter most to the biggest stories in sports. Go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. We saw the hosts of Locked On Astros and Locked On Phillies on there recently, and they had a great segment where they offered what advantage their team brings to the World Series. So you should check that out. Locked On Sports Today is available on this app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, Johnny, you said you solved the depth problem by bringing Brandon Drury to your team as you play the general manager of the Angels.
Yes.
Now I'm interested.
I like him in that spot. I like Drury.
I love that.
We have a lot of confidence.
We really feel good about him there.
We feel good about him playing all over the field.
Now I'd love to hear about what you would do about we need pitching. So what would you do with our starting rotation? Why don't you start there?
Mike, I am going to make a big splash here, all right? And it's going to involve somebody named Mr. Tyler Anderson, somebody that you and I on Super Halo Bros podcast last year had speculated about the Angels signing. And sure enough, he was swapped up by the Dodgers. And what did they do? They turned him into a beast this season.
He had a great year.
Was a stud. And so let me give you what he earned in 2022. He earned $8 million for the year, and his market value is for 2023, his market value is $13,642,924.
Okay.
Michael, I think he's worth every penny. I'm giving him $14 million for the year, and I think that will help get the job done. I understand that that's market value, but it is a pretty big boost for what he's earned since last year. Let me give you the numbers here. A 4.3 WAR, 15-5, 2.57 ERA, 28 starts, 178 and 2/3 innings pitched, and a 1.00 whip. How about
Johnny,
that?
They paid him $8 million, and that's
right.
the season that he had.
And they unlocked something in him. Yeah.
Right.
Because
Look
the man who
great.
came into this season was worth $8 million. And
Absolutely.
the Dodgers turned him into a beast. Like I said, coming off a career year with the Dodgers, he's been so improved by them, and they unlocked something in him to make him a stud for the years to come. And so if he takes that Dodger knowledge with him to the Angels, I wouldn't be afraid to sign him to a multi-year deal.
Sure.
In fact, if it's $14 million a year and you get him for 3 or 4 years, I think that's pretty good because he would be a solid number 2 behind Shohei Ohtani. Now, I'm going to include a second starting pitcher.
Okay.
And this one flew a little bit under the radar. This year, Michael Wacha earned $7 million with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
His market value was about $12 million. So that's what he could potentially get. Mike, he was injured for about a month.
Right.
So I'm going to take that into consideration. I'm going to give him a $10 million contract. Listen to this. He was 11-2 with a 3.32 ERA, 127 innings pitched, and he had a 1.115 whip.
And he looked good against us.
Well, here's the thing. He was completely under the radar with the Red Sox this season.
Yeah.
He had a career resurgence. He got back to those strong numbers he had with St. Louis all those years, and he had a complete game shutout against who?
The Angels.
Yes, that's correct.
You're welcome.
Yes. So like I said, I think it's reasonable to come in a little bit under the market value just because of that month off injury. I want to take that into consideration. But here's what I like about him, Mike. He is getting guys to hit the top of the ball 31.4% of the time. And you know why?
Wow.
Because that sinker is working again. So guys are swinging over it or they're swinging and hitting it into the ground. I am excited to see Michael Wacha's resurgence. And I think that he would be a great part of the rotation. So for the rotation, I'm going big time with Tyler Anderson. Yeah. And I'm going somewhat big time with Michael Wacha, who is on a career resurgence. How about that?
Okay, can I ask 2 questions?
Yes.
First question is, what's your rotation look like after Shohei with our guys and these 2 guys? Real quick.
I think real quick, I'm going Shohei, Anderson, Sandoval, Wacha, Detmers, Suarez. That's the way I would go.
Second question. You're super confident in both of these guys actually continuing another great year. Like this wasn't just a poof and it's gone. You think that for Tyler Anderson specifically, you think that this is who he is now?
I think it's who he is now because when you're in that Dodger system and they teach you how to be the best version of you, I think that sticks with you. And I think that you don't you don't get away from what works. And clearly it worked with the Dodgers. And the Dodgers have a lot of offense. And I think that our offense, when everybody's healthy, could support Tyler Anderson coming this season. Yeah.
I agree. All right. Now tell me bullpen. What do you got?
Bullpen. I'm just making one move for this bullpen, Mike. Because I know that we have the bodies, we have the arms, and I think that we have the young studs who can help keep us there. But I think we need to lock down the back of the bullpen. So I am giving the full-time closing role to Rafael Montero. Currently with the Astros. Previously, he's been with Seattle. Mike, his value in 22 was $2,725,000. And his market value coming into this season, this offseason, is about $8,190,000. So Montero, giving him $9 million to be our closer. To lock it down at the back of the bullpen. Considering Raisel Iglesias was $16 million a year, this is a pretty significant discount. But Mike, when the Astros lost their closer, Montero stepped up this season and he has continued to dominate. it's time to let him close. He's got a killer four-seam fastball. He's got a sinker. He's got a changeup, a slider. Man, and he's just ramping up that speed. I think he's got the hard enough stuff to get through the inning. He's got a 51% ground ball rate, and I think that has everything to do with that sinker. So I think with a solid defense behind him and him coming in, throwing hard, and also throwing that sinker, the change, the slider, I like the movement on that stuff. I think that he could be a full-time closer. Now, that's taking into account that we have Jimmy Herget, Andrew Wantz, who turned a corner this season. I think Austin Warren is going to be back in this bullpen. I think Chris Rodriguez, when he's healthy, will be in the bullpen. Agreed. Possibly Griffin Canning is a long reliever kind of guy, kind of like what Jaime Barria was doing. Yeah. So I think we have enough of the bodies. I think that you take the attention off of some of these guys and put them on Rafael Montero, who is in the big time, and he's going to be in the World Series. I think that is going to be really special for this bullpen. I think you move Quijada back a few innings. Maybe he could be more of a setup guy. Of course, we still have Aaron Loop, Ryan Tepera. Those guys are here for another year as well. So there's plenty of options there. Yeah, and I think for sure Montero really solidifies the back of the bullpen.
All right, GM Johnny, you have signed Brandon Drury. You have brought on Tyler Anderson, Michael Wacha. You have signed Rafael Montero to be our closer. Now we're looking at maybe some really key pieces to the Angels, and I'm interested to see how you're going to solve maybe the left field issue, how you're going to solve maybe the first baseman issue, if it is going to be Walsh or somebody else. What are some moves that you're going to make now that really can complete the John Frisch Los Angeles Angels?
Well, here's how this season is going to start for me. Joe Adell is going to be our fourth outfielder because we're going to have Trout in center field and we're going to have Taylor Ward in right field. So that leaves left field open. And here's the direction I want to go. I went back and forth on this for a while, Mike, but let me give you the name and who I'm going to sign and then tell you what I was going back and forth on. For left field, I am signing Brandon Nimmo from the Mets. He's a free agent this season. Yeah. He got $7 million this year. Next year, he's pegged to get $14 million or so, a little bit over $14 million. So that's how much I'm going to sign him for left field. $14 million. I went back and forth between him and Jock Peterson. I really like what Jock brings to the table. He's actually going for about the same price on the market. He would get about $14 million as well. And he's great because he gives you pop in the middle of the order. But I like Nimmo's defense, and here's what I like most about him. He is your quintessential table setter. He gets on base. He gets good contact. He's got a little bit better contact rate than Jock Peterson. They both actually make very good contact. I checked that out on Baseball Savant. But Nimmo has always been number one. He gets on base through walking and making contact, and he's fast. And he scores runs, and he's durable, and he plays a great defense. And so I think getting him out of center field, moving him into left field would be the play here. I really like Brandon Nimmo. If they can't do that, I would be more than fine with getting Jock Peterson for left field. It kind of gives you two different styles of left fielder, but I like the fact that Nimmo is the perfect number one in your lineup.
You know, I'm with you. I would be torn on Brandon Nimmo and Jock Peterson as well, but I think that the Nimmo move intrigues me, and so I like that. That was a good decision by General Manager Johnny. You can keep your job. Any other moves, John, that really feel important to you?
There's one more thing I want to address, Mike, and I know that I talked about depth earlier, but I have another depth option here. Here's the direction I want to go. This man earned almost $20 million in 2022. This upcoming offseason, he'll earn about $9 million. And he's an AL MVP. Do you want to know who it is?
Yes, please.
Jose Abreu is a free agent this season, Mike. He is pegged to make about $9 million. So I'm going to offer him $9 million to split time with Jared Walsh at first base. Listen to his numbers this season. He's 36 years old, by the way, so take that into
Wow.
account.
Yeah.
4.2 WAR, 601 at bats, 183 hits, 15 home runs, a 304 batting average, an on-base percentage of 378, an
Wow.
OPS of 824, Mike. He's still got it. He's
Yeah.
36, but he's
Yeah.
durable. He's played at least 150 games, and he played all 60 in 2020. But since 2018, he's played at least 150 games. And in 2018, that was the first and only time he had an IL stint. So he's 36 years old. He's so durable. And I think that he would fill in greatly at first base on a cheap deal because he is getting older. And I'm sure he still wants to play. This reminds me of like when we got like Hideki Matsui. When it was like he's coming off a great year. He's a little bit older. We put him out there in the outfield. I think that this, to me, is kind of the same kind of move. It's not somebody you rely on every single day. In fact, you're only going to help his longevity if he's sharing time at first base. But here's what gets me excited, Mike. Man, versus righties, he hits 307, and versus lefties, he hits 294. So he just hits. He just hits.
Yeah.
And so if Walsh is going through a slump or somebody else is going through a slump, you can put in Jose Abreu in that spot. I really like having him there. I honestly think it would be a surprising move, but it'd be a really fun move at the end of the day. And I think for as old as he is, I think he's still got it. I think he can still play and he can still go. So Jose Abreu, $9 million for me. What do you say?
Man, so he's going to platoon with Jared Walsh. Will Jared Walsh be your starter?
I would start Jared Walsh. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But when he's facing a lefty, I think Jose Abreu is the guy that you bring in for that. And again, it goes back to depth. You can put Drury at first base. You can move Drury around the infield. You can put Jared Walsh in left field. We've seen him out there before. So like I said, I want to get creative with these guys. That's the kind of teams that get to the playoffs. You have guys who can move all over the field. They have their positions, but you have guys who can step in and show out in different positions when you need them to.
Man, Johnny, I think if I'm going to give you a grade here, I'm going to say a high B+ because you addressed all of the needs. You did everything that we would need there. And I know it wasn't a complete overhaul, but you did, I think, what was necessary to help Shohei and Mike Trout get to the playoffs. You have two really strong arms, and you also have a bullpen piece, and then you've also addressed the depth. It allows Rengifo to play, Soto possibly to play, and if left field doesn't work out with Nimmo or Jock Peterson, you went with Nimmo, then you can put Drury out there, and you have somebody that can take over at first base if Walshy is not going to bounce back. So I say high B+ here. I think you did a really great job. You can stay the general manager today.
Another day? All right.
Another day.
Listen, versatility is the key word here that I went for. I want these guys to be able to play all over the field and be used where they need to be used, especially if somebody gets hurt. You can put somebody else there and know that you're going to be just fine without the person who got hurt. Now, a couple final thoughts here, Mike. Number one, obviously, I didn't go after Trey Turner. I didn't go after Carlos Correa because I was trying to do what I think the Angels could and should do. I would love to see them go after the big stars, obviously, but I have to work within the means of what history has shown us.
Sure.
And that's that they're not going to go near that luxury tax. So I have a couple caveats here. If I get everything that I want, that I just told you, minus Jock Peterson, that was a backup. If I get everything I want here, I come in at $219,319,000. So that's pretty high over $200 million.
Yeah.
Now, if I remove Jose Abreu and Michael Wacha, I come in at $200,319,000. So that's more in line with where I would want to be, where realistically I could be. And I think the Angels might go there as well. Now, a whole caveat to this is if I bring back Michael Lorenzen on the same deal he had last season, instead of Michael Wacha, I come in at about $207 million. So there's a couple of options there. And I think that the Angels will try to stay between 190 and 200 million. They don't have a lot of wiggle room, but I mean, again, the luxury tax is 233, so they can get right up to that line without having to pay anything. So I think that 200 million is kind of a fair playing field. Obviously, it's not perfect numbers, but I kind of get everything I want here, minus the backup of Jose Abreu and a second starter. That means we would need to rely on Drury Moore at first base, and we might call somebody up from Double A to play in that rotation.
My B plus drops to a C if you don't have Jose and Michael, because I think that those are the two pieces that put this over the top, because it screams depth, but you're not actually fully relying upon them. So if you can't get those guys, if you're not allowed to spend it, I think it changes what you do. However, I think what you've done here, Jonny, beautiful. It's beautiful. It's magnificent.
Can I take this tie off now? It's
take the tie off. You've done well, my brother. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen today. And for your second listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. They share the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. They're available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.
So tell me what you guys think. How did GM Jonny Minasian do today? Please let me know at Locked On Angels on Twitter. And of course, at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Michael, what's on deck for tomorrow's show?
Well, I take a turn in the GM chair, and I don't have a tie, and I feel the pressure because you've done excellent.
You've got a tie.
And so nobody's getting married or dying, so that's why I don't have to wear it. So tomorrow, I'm going to sit in the general manager chair, and we're going to find out if my team is better than your team.
Ooh, okay. All right. I'm looking forward to that episode. In the meantime, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
That's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Angels, and we will see you right back here tomorrow for GM Mike Minasian.